Welcome first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. What about fucking Colin? Why does he not have a fucking job? Because he's still being whiteballed. Why is Tom not speaking out about that? He should be his biggest fucking ally. And he hasn't said one fucking thing. A lot of people that have come on this show, I don't know why, they've gotten some good fucking jobs afterwards. Jim Rome in the jungle. It's right here in the Sports Deli, baby. We got some good ass karma right here. Let's fucking go.
I love it.
Man.
I love it.
We hope you enjoy today's show, everyone.
All right, let's rock and roll. We're so honored to welcome Cheri Kempf, Vice President and Executive Producer for Broadcast Distribution for Athletes Unlimited. But wow, we both have yellow balls too. Mine says
Year
official
one.
league.
Yours doesn't say this.
No, it does not. Absolutely not.
Hey,
but I
here's
would
a
love to
drop
have one
ball.
of those. Okay.
Here's a drop ball. You can go here, and if
Okay.
you and you
So
can
it's a
let this
palm
one come
ball.
off the end of
Okay.
your fingers,
Okay.
and you'll get a little bit of tail if you're a right-hander, tail right. Or you could go here. This is how I threw it. And I actually turned it over to make it spin down. You know, I grew up playing outside until your parents called you in. I wouldn't change any of it for the world. All of that certainly contributed to me being the athlete that I was, and hopefully to being a contributor as a human.
To find out more about World Day of Social Justice, Google the United Nations and social justice, and it'll be the first link that comes up. She was born in St. Joseph, Missouri, which, in case you were wondering, like I was, where in the hell is St. Joseph, Missouri? It's a couple miles from the Kansas state line and about 54 minutes from Kansas City. She got her undergrad in English from Missouri Western State University, where as a two-sport student athlete, like me, she played intercollegiate softball and basketball. Tennis was my second sport, along with basketball. She completed her master's degree in telecommunications and film right near me here at San Diego State University. She loves dogs and cats. She won a World Cup with the U.S. national team in 1992, 4 years before softball made its Olympic debut. She ran the Club K softball clinic in Tennessee and has been a softball broadcast analyst and producer, as well as commissioner of the National Pro Fastpitch League. She loves traveling, downtime, the grind, and hustle, especially when looking for others when she's hiring. You can find her on Twitter at Cheri Kempf. Kempf is a little tricky. It's not necessarily how it sounds. It's Kempf, where she has 16,000 followers. Damn. And of course, you can go to Athletes Unlimited at auprosports.com. And I know we mentioned it earlier, but I do want to shout out the nearly 50,000 people who have lost their lives in Turkey and Syria, as well as those that lost their lives on the campus of Michigan State University. But Cheri, welcome to the podcast. We're so honored to have you on the 51st anniversary of Title IX, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially Cheri Kempf and anyone related to Athletes Unlimited.
Thank you very much. I'm tickled to be on here.
Yeah, I know you've been doing this a long time, and you know, I always try and you know, talk about things that have these intersections, you know, not only between sports and, you know, necessarily social injustice and equality and leadership, but mental health. And, you know, when you're a pioneer and a part of something that's the first of its kind, truly innovatively and in so many ways, broadcast wise, it must rejuvenate you and give you a shot in the arm after, you know, being a professional in multiple spaces, you know, throughout the years. And so, you know, I definitely want to get to that part of it because it's exciting for me to see something unlike anything we've ever seen in this space before with women's sports. But what was it like growing up in St. Joseph, Missouri, with a population of 71,602?
Well, I will tell you, I said this last year at a ceremony in St. Joseph, is that I believe I grew up in exactly the right place at exactly the right time with exactly the right people. And referencing my family first, and then just that environment that existed in St. Joseph. I think it was, you know, there were sports seasons. So you mentioned at the top that I actually played two sports in college. And I will say I played a season of tennis. So since you brought it up, but, but, I grew up, you played basketball and that season started and ended. And then you played softball and that season started and ended. And
Right.
so we were able to diversify. I had a neighborhood full of boys that, we divided up, picked teams. We had a basketball hoop in the backyard that had zero grass underneath it. There's probably still no grass growing there because we beat it down so hard. But, so for me, up at a time when.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because Jay Billis, when he was on the show, talked about how horrendous his high school experience was. And so, maybe there's some coaches that listen to this, but what advice would you give based on your tremendous experience, not only with your familial support, obviously you had coaches that impacted you because you wanted to continue to play in college, whereas a lot of people quit. And women have a much higher rate and girls have a much higher rate of quitting. And so we want, obviously, in the next 50 years, to honor Title IX and to continue to evolve in this space, to make sure that we have numbers that continue to rise in terms of participation. So what would you say, because Jay Billis came on and said, the guy was a good dude. He was just a horrible coach. And we have no certification for basketball coaches. And I know you're representing the umbrella of Athletes Unlimited from the broadcast side with regards to volleyball and lacrosse and softball and basketball. But it is women. And we are talking about representation. And it starts at a young age. And so what things did you take from your childhood that you could share with other coaches or parents that would help young girls understand that it's not just about the sport, but it's the camaraderie, it's the life skills, and you may not realize a lot of the stuff that is invaluable to you in your life until later, so that we continue to increase participation because it's still way below what boys are in terms of numbers.
Well, I think there's a couple of easy ones. When I look at growing up and playing, so first of all, when I was 12, my parents weren't counting on me playing softball or basketball in college to cover the cost. So that wasn't, we were playing because it was fun. My parents, my grandparents, my family that was watching me were watching me play and were proud of me because it was fun. And it wasn't, this just positioned her better to get more money for college, right, or to get now, you're talking about NIL deals and, a lot of other things, I'm sure, that parents are interested in. But so I would say, don't take the fun out of it. I think as whether you're a male coach or a female coach, I think you have to understand that a lot of times in women's and girls sports, it is about the camaraderie and it is about, having fun besides just being super intense in a sport. So I think that is a number one thing to remember, because it doesn't matter how talented someone is or how accomplished or how good they are. If they're not having fun, they're not going to want to keep doing it. That's just common sense. So I think that, and then I think that a lot of times adults sit around and with their adult brains, and I learned this when I taught pitching. Pitching is actually fundamentally a simple thing to talk about. It's not a simple thing to do, but it's a simple thing. The mechanics are fairly simple. I listened to people talk about pitching. It sounded like they were splitting atoms. I mean, I couldn't even follow along, and I had written a book on it. So I think keep it simple. Yeah. I think that I believe in the Harvey Pinnock Little Red Book of Golf. And that is one thing at a time, not, don't tell somebody 14 things to do. And I think you realize, even if you're taking the trash out, there it is. There's that book. I love it. You have the green one too? The Little Red Book in green? Here it comes. One thing at a time. Blue. All right. There it is. I love it. Very simple. If you haven't read that one, I recommend it to everyone. But what I was saying is, even if you're taking the trash across the driveway, you don't want somebody to tell you every step to make. And if you do, it's just going to take the fun. It's just going to sap you. So back to recommendation A, keep it fun.
It's a great point you make because it's a delicate balance because you and I are more old school, and I've talked about this a few times, but not many. There's often a disconnect with an old school coach and micromanaging and do as I say and shut up and dribble versus allowing them to blossom, and find their way and just guide them and be a bridge and be a vessel and nurture them, which is not something that we always talked about in the old days, nurturing the student athlete, right? So, but how was it for you in college, like, and during the recruiting process? Were you nurtured? Did they care about you as a person, or was it just, could you ball?
Yeah, it was all about that. It was all about that. I think that is that mentality from that time.
Mhm.
And it was all about just if you played. I do want to say something about, I want to kind of tag what you were saying there. Again, a lot of times I mentioned people thinking things up in their adult brains. I used to have parents come in, and it was dads always. So I'll just say that, but they would come into a pitching lesson with their 10-year-old little adorable daughter who was somewhat talented. And they would say, Cheri, I've been thinking about this and I thought, and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you thinking about, girls softball? You've obviously spent hours on this. So anyway, I think people get carried away with it. And in softball right now, there's I think a huge problem in that, because what you mentioned in old
Are you
school.
talking about parents?
Yeah. But we might not have been, the nurturing thing may not have existed, but I'll tell you what else didn't exist when I was 13 years old, a coach calling pitches. Your 13-year-old catcher was calling the pitches, and she was learning how to play softball because again, reminder, alert, she is the player. The girls are the players. So now you go to any somewhat serious anything travel, you can probably find it anywhere. There's some person over there that probably has charts and, piles of information and is feeding, calling every pitch because they're fun. But what they don't understand is they're right smack dab in the middle of a girls' softball game as a, 35-year-old man. And I think that's not where you need to be.
It's so interesting. I didn't think we were going to go down this road, but I think it's really important because I just had a conversation with somebody who said, yeah, I think I'm going to have summer ball with my team. And my response was, because I've pivoted in this space, because my club team as a professional basketball skills trainer is only about trying your moves in the summer to see if they work. If you don't try, this is actually the Bill Walton philosophy, and I thought he was bananas when he said this at UCLA 35 years ago. He said, when you go play in the summer, shoot every shot, do every move, because you won't know if it works if you don't try it in pressure situations. And so I have to tell my players, if you're 0 for 8 from the floor from 3 in the summer, and I do it during the year too, but especially in summer, and you don't shoot the 9th shot, I'm taking you out.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can build your confidence if you don't try the moves, if you don't understand nuance. There's body language, there's eye contact, there's all kinds of stuff. And to all the coaches out there, please, in the fall, spring, summer, the non-traditional seasons, please allow your players to evolve and let them fail. Let them try stuff.
Well,
It drives me
you
nuts.
can't be, you can't be on all the time. There's a
Right.
time to learn. There's a time to learn.
Absolutely.
And then there's a time for, where you're under the gun and you're going to test everything. But in I guess the highest level of competition, if you're in athletics, but you have to have that time where, like you're saying, it doesn't matter. You just need to fight through the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, balancing things in college, you had a great experience, and then did you plan on playing professionally after? You were D2,
No,
right?
I went, when I was at Missouri Western, it was NAIA.
It was NAIA. Wow.
Yeah.
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 And that's not
So
to
now
say there's
they're,
not a lot of D1 level players at NAIA, just so everybody understands that, right? There is. But you chose that probably what? Maybe it was close to home
it was
or
my hometown. Yeah, it was
yeah,
my,
it was your
my
hometown.
hometown.
Yeah.
And so, I think for me, again, I got to play two sports.
Right.
I did balance things. If anything suffered, if you had social and sports and school, may have come in, you could interchange the top two. The third one was always in the same place. But yeah, I was able to balance it and enjoy it. And my friends, I had plenty of time for everything, really.
But you represented our country. Man, like I'm Jewish, so I've thought about, well, I've tried out 3 times. I didn't make it every time, the Maccabea games, when I was younger. And so, that's just representing your country, in the Jewish space. But what's it like? Were you around Jenny?
No, I'm quite a bit older than Jenny.
Okay, you don't look it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Somebody's called me her mom once, and I was pretty thrilled. I'm like, do we favor?
So referencing Jenny Finch, but there's some people that have made softball in particular popular, and that's a space that just like any other women's and girls sports can really bring out the real personality of a person, because softball and volleyball, there's more cheering and more outgoing, expectations than any other sport. So did that help that you have to cheer constantly? Because basketball is a little bit different, right? In that way.
Yeah, I think that's a little different. On the national team, you weren't constantly cheering like you're imagining, but yeah, but to your point, I mean, anybody that knows me, I'm a true, it shouldn't shock you to know I'm a team sports girl.
Right.
I really liked all of that. I enjoyed all of that. I often think about, like golfers and tennis players. And to me, it seems like such a lonely space, I mean, there's just nobody to go in and make a joke with or high five with if you're having an off day or a bad day, or celebrate with if you're having a good day. So it's just a different mentality, and I was a team sports person. So I certainly, lean into that.
What did you take from softball and bring it over to basketball and vice versa that you think helped with the other sports?
Well, so I was a pitcher in softball, and I was always, I threw hard. That was what I was known for. So at a young age, I don't want to sound like I'm boasting or bragging, because I don't mean it that way. I'm making a comparison. It was easier for me to be dominant. It was easier for me to succeed. So I think I was good enough at basketball, but it wasn't natural for me to star in basketball. So especially when I got to college, I had gone to a small country high school where I was able to do really well in basketball. But when I got to college, we had a junior varsity and a varsity, and I was sitting the bench on junior varsity in my freshman year. So it was quite an eye opener. And then, college, it gets rougher. It gets, it's not just about being tall. It's about being able to hold some space. And I was 6 foot, so I should have been at that time. Now it's not. Now you're, you're a short guard at 6 foot. But at that time, you were playing you should be playing under the basket. And I'm telling you, they moved me around under there like I was a, straw in a tornado. So, but anyway.
You played 4 years of college ball too?
I did.
Man, shout out to you for like not saying, oh, the hell with this, basketball thing. I'm just going to do softball. And you stuck it out, even though you were sitting on the bench on the JV in college. I mean, I played JV in high school as a junior, which was, I don't know if I was humiliated or embarrassed. I honestly, I was just excited to be on the team. you
Yeah.
know, but wow, in college, when you were so good at one thing, you could have just been like, this is malarkey.
Yeah,
So
I
man, that's
really
props to you.
appreciated it. I appreciated the experience, and when I left, I had set the scoring record at that time with 2-point shots, but that was rewarding because I think, not that it wasn't rewarding to pitch and to compete in softball as well, but that one I felt like I had to work at a little more.
Yeah, that's why you understand the grind and the hustle maybe now differently than a lot of people that don't have to overcome things and other things come easier to you, than maybe some other things in your life. Wow, that's amazing. I love that part of the story. How is it to be working around? Because you were trying to navigate one space, and then this Athletes Unlimited thing happened. And if there's anything, between, your professional career and fast forwarding to where you're at now, and you want to, talk about that and its impact, not only in your life, but, how you're able to help pay it forward now in this space, please feel free to share. But, Jay Bill's talked about this also, how you're going down the road thinking you're going to be a lawyer like Jay, and Coach K comes calling. You're at a crossroads, and you got to make a decision. And he's been on ESPN ever since.
Yeah.
You've been on ESPN. But what was it like? How did you feel when you were trying to start something and then all of a sudden Athletes Unlimited came calling and you're like, I don't know about this, but I don't know what I'm trying to do is working either, and leap of faith kind of thing. How was it for you?
Well, I will tell you, there have been some moments, and really, I had a 70,000 square foot training facility that I actually owned
Wow.
half of even the structure, and I made a decision to leave private training after a decade and go with ESPN, but it seemed natural to me because I did really like being on TV and talking about college softball and hopefully helping to grow the game in that way. So even though the decisions I think are hard, I think that at least for me, there was some clarity too. Like it felt like this is the right place to be. Same thing with Athletes Unlimited. I had been the commissioner of National Pro Fastpitch for 13 years. And it was a lot of, the truth is it was uphill backwards in a snowstorm. It was hard. That league, it was constantly trying to make it work. It was a question from year to year. So for 13 seasons, there was a lot of things that were rewarding in there that we existed. But when John Patricoff called me about Athletes Unlimited, he was a breath of fresh air, to be honest. And initially it wasn't about, they didn't even know if they were going to have softball as a sport. And so it was just conversations. It was just talking. I enjoyed talking to him and hearing that, that they were going, some of the ideas, which were very rough at the time, right. But it never was, it became, hey, let me cooperate, because right away, John was like, it's not our goal to compete with the NPF. It's if we end up going in softball, we don't want to wipe people out. We want to be another opportunity for women in this space. And what I knew was, we had women that were leaving professional softball because they couldn't afford to play. So if they could play 3 months in the NPF, and at the end of the NPF, you could go to Athletes Unlimited for 5 or 6 weeks and make another $20,000, that was going to probably put our players in a space that they could keep playing professionally longer. So I was all for it. And we had a cooperative partnership between the league and Athletes Unlimited. And then it kind of just evolved. I mean, COVID hit, the National Pro Fastpitch League just simply, from a financial standpoint, could not put the testing and everything that was needed in place for that. So it was kind of natural. I'm not going to tell you it was easy and it was a foregone conclusion, but but it was certainly, you know, a tremendous opportunity for me.
Yeah, shout out to John Patrikoff, CEO and co-founder of Athletes Unlimited. So tell everyone who have no idea what we're talking about, you know, not only from the standpoint of there's 4 women's sports, you know, seasonally, in one area. They don't travel, you know, from Dallas to San Diego, you know, and then the uniqueness of the scoring systems. Man, that sure makes it exciting. It's sort of like fantasy, but the team aspect also, in a way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
amazing.
hard to believe. I should, it's kind of, I shouldn't say that, but it's hard to believe how much in going against probably the norm and the easy things of looking at how everyone else is doing it and just sort of mimicking that.
Yeah.
Athletes Unlimited really flipped it, team sports and the competition on its head to some degree. And how many things were right, you know, were just ended up playing out perfectly, really. And so, you know, I think that if you're looking at Athletes Unlimited, first of all, the co-founders, you mentioned John Patrikoff, who's our CEO, and then Jonathan Soros, who is a co-founder. And I think that what they did was really look at sports and identifies the things that maybe could be better or
was it an issue of trying to get more viewership with women without compromising the integrity of each of those respective sports?
I think, I don't know that that was ever a driver. I think that the driver was to empower athletes and enable athletes a lot more than they've ever been in professional sports, to create a platform where they could be more than just athletes, where they could have voices and they could be civic leaders and societal leaders, and that this leagues or the leagues would really empower these women and give, or the athletes in general, and give them a platform. And I think that was kind of where it all started. And then to take some of the things like, you know, our sort of hashtag is every moment counts. And I think that can, if you hear it a lot, you can think it's a cliche, but it's not. For us, it is kind of the foundation, and that is to make every minute in a competition have a bearing ultimately. So you take these athletes in softball, it's in our championship season, it's 60 players. They all go to one location, and then they also all go on a leaderboard, 1 to 60. So no one's ever seen that in team sports. You see that in individual sports, race cars, you know, NASCAR, golf, tennis, you see that. But in team sports, you've never seen people broken out of that team dynamic. So they all go on the leaderboard, and then they score points different ways. And what I think a lot of people thought was going to happen with that leaderboard was that it, including the players, when I was first giving pitches to softball players to come in the league, they were really skeptical of this concept. Is it going to be dog eat dog? Is it going to turn us against one another? And that's not why I play softball, you know, to go for myself. But it really doesn't. It does the opposite, because you get the most points for winning innings and winning games. So I think it had the reverse effect that maybe everyone anticipated. But that leaderboard determines the captains each week. The top 4 people on the leaderboard are team captains, and they draft their teams. So every week, those 4 teams, that's a one time in history that you're going to see those 15 women compete together on that team. So it's pretty neat, really. And there's a lot of
fascinating stuff, man. It's just awesome.
And there's a lot to think about. Like, as soon in softball, you think about things like, what are your batteries? You know, what kind of pitching staff do you have? Who's catching them? Who are your big hitters? And right away, when those teams draft out, you're like, who's going to, we had the first basketball draft of 2023 yesterday. And in the chat on YouTube, people are already like, oh my gosh, I can't believe those two are going to be together. And, you know, so it's super fun for fans.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I've never seen anything like it. And it's, each week, it's 5 weeks softballs as every sport, one of the four sports, all 5 weeks.
The championship seasons are 5 weeks. Lacrosse is 4. That's an exception. And then we have last year we expanded softball with a condensed version called AUX.
Yeah.
And that is right around 2 weeks. It's just a little north.
Yeah. So you mentioned you got a lot of things right from the jump, even though there wasn't necessarily pushback. There was just some apprehension maybe. But what changes after the first year did you make in softball and basketball in particular, and maybe volleyball and lacrosse, that you said, okay, this isn't working, or maybe we should do this differently, and then that's been implemented for this year, if anything?
Not a lot, really. At times
Yeah.
we look at the scoring system, what value is placed on winning, what value is placed on individual stats, and break those out. So in softball, how much should they get for a strikeout? How much, or an out? How much should they get for a double? So I think the player executive committees that exist in each one of those sports really take a close look at all of that. But it's not at all what you would think. We asked the softball players after season 1, we asked them, the question was, would you, if you're not retiring, there were a few people that were retiring. If you're not retiring, will you come back if asked? And it was 100% yes. And so,
Wow.
that's a good feeling, and it's the best validation of all.
Let me ask you about the impact of not only giving them voices and how empowering that is, and not only for them, but for you to be around that. So many incredible women. I mean, that's a lot of women in 4 sports that it's just got to be contagious. Like, it just
Yeah.
has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you, I feel like even when I was in broadcasting, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but as I started to age in broadcasting, I would, as those players started to be not my generation.
Mm.
So I would talk to them. Maybe I would talk to them in a post-game interview on the field. I would talk to them pre, and I remember the moment when I started thinking to myself, how impressed I was with these young women, how well they spoke. And I thought to myself, even though I was a good player at that age, I couldn't have interviewed like this. I couldn't have had my thoughts together as well as they do. And so I think that was the start of me being impressed. And then I think that's just increased. And I think in Athletes Unlimited, you certainly are in this environment where it's encouraged and it's nurtured and it is enabled to the nth degree. And I'll tell you, I'm impressed. I remain impressed. I think these women have a lot to say. I think they've given a lot of thought to the things they comment on. And I'm not talking about their respective sports. I'm talking about the world and the things that are going on around them a lot, and their teammates. And so I'm really lucky. That may be the biggest thing of all, to be able to watch. And I'll tell you one other thing that I am really grateful for Athletes Unlimited, and that is to get beyond one sport. I was in softball for so long in every facet of it, and to be able to be up close and personal with professional basketball and professional lacrosse and professional volleyball. It's a really cool thing. And
Amazing.
it's neat to see sort of the nuances of differences between the athletes, sport to sport. But I mean, I was at the draft yesterday with basketball, and you are not going to see personalities. I mean, we do weekly drafts in every sport. Basketball are over the meter with their personalities in the draft. I mean, I'm sitting there, calling the show and just finding myself laughing at them. So, and really just enjoying their picks and their personalities.
Man, that's just priceless. Do you see advertisers, and because, I'm in this influencer program with Amazon, And so let me give you an example. Well, with the podcast first, you don't have to be in the media for 20 years to start a podcast and make inroads. You don't have to pay your dues, good or bad. And so I'm in this influencer program. And so I do videos and photos for anything sold on Amazon. And if somebody likes what they see in my video and they happen to come across it and they purchase it, I get a percentage. So now you didn't know if that was going to work initially, right? Amazon sold books. And
Right.
now look at Amazon. And so now I can go to that company if I want to look for a brand deal and say, hey, I don't know, Bounty, the quicker picker upper, whatever, and say, hey, I'm already doing a video. I already like your product. It's successful. You know, if you like what you see, let me know and maybe we can talk shop. So in that same, line of thinking, is there a whole new world that's opened up because of the success after that first year, in year 2 now with regards to sponsors and advertisers and how you can not only do it on television, but through social media and other means where, people are just swiping, versus watching television, which is where the advertisers used to promote their products. And that's just not how it is anymore.
Yeah, I think I will tell you this, like I think we have some really great partners that we're proud of, that you see anywhere you see our content, whether that's social or broadcast, Nike, Geico, Air National Guard. We have some really tremendous partnerships and some folks that we're really happy to be engaged with. But, I read an article the other day that NASCAR is celebrating its 75th anniversary, I believe, and they announced a record-setting 55 partners. That's not happening in women's sports, period.
Right.
So
Should there be a law that requires, and there's been some talk about this, that mandates the same amount of funding
yeah,
for women's sports?
but that's Title IX in real
Right.
life, outside of government funded entities, but it'll probably, that's just not going to happen. But people should see value. We in Athletes Unlimited, we are as enabled to exploit a product more so, because if you think about NASCAR, it's a sticker this big on a car. Maybe it's a sticker this big, as
Or
opposed to
on
a
their
whole
clothing.
backstop or
Right.
Whatever it might be. But I think that I'm not knocking NASCAR, but I'm just telling you that I think a lot of times opportunities aren't weighed without bias. I think that there's just an automatic mindset that we need to be with boys and men instead of the opportunities that are emerging with women. And listen, that's going to make the difference. That will make the difference. Corporate partnership will determine that women can be full-time professionals and that they can thrive at a sport they're born to play, as they should, as compared to their male counterparts. And so, I think that's still the hump we have to get over. I think you're seeing some really great people spend money in women's sports, but not a large volume in any way yet.
Not yet. Man, fascinating conversation. All right, let's get to the fun part, the rapid fire, the this or that portion of the podcast. Anything else you want to fill in? Feel free. The stage will be yours at the end before we let you go. Who's your favorite basketball player of all time, either gender?
I'm going with Cheryl Swoops.
Man, we've been trying to get Cheryl on the show forever.
Oh, that should be easy.
Man, yeah, there's a few people, but she's just, she's Cheryl. She's the GOAT.
I'm picking.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite male player that you used to love to watch, being from the Midwest?
If I'm just watching highlights or something like that, I think the most impressive, I'm going to pick Kobe.
Wow.
And this is why I'm going to pick him, because he showed up at the big moments. There are a lot of amazing athletes that are amazing when you're ahead by 10. But when you're behind by 10, there's not a lot of people that can put you on their back and say, nope, we're going to win this one. And I always liked that about him, and he did it for years and years.
I wasn't necessarily going to go down this rabbit hole, but you reminded me of something. I don't know why it popped into my head. But you look at Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, not only as a power couple, but using their platform, leveraging their platform in a way to speak out about a number of issues. And we've seen women almost always at the forefront. You know, there's Muhammad Ali, and there's, you know, people on the men's side, obviously Arthur Ashe. And and if you don't want to go down this rabbit hole, you don't have to, but just the concept of what you guys, like you said, enable and encourage. You know, you got these white quarterbacks in the NFL who have not leveraged their platform in the most popular sport in the United States, at least, not in the world, but in the United States, American football. And so, in particular, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Tony Romo, and Troy Aikman. Those guys, and Aaron Rodgers. Those guys I've been super critical of, and they don't have to do one thing, just like anybody else. Not leveraging their platform to talk about equality, and sometimes they will if there's a specific issue like Brittany Griner or something like that, or social injustice. And so, do you have any thought? Do you get irritated? Is it something that upsets you when you don't see those white privileged quarterbacks, other than a slogan here or there, not doing what they could, especially for social injustice and women?
I do think that some people are better and more natural at
Talking
just
about their
even
divorce in public versus
verbalizing a cause, you know, like,
right.
so I'm kind of trained. You won't see me make any really overt statements, other than at times try to show support for something. And quite frankly, that's a product of getting my hand slapped a couple of times as the commissioner of the NPF. Like, you know, by owners, don't take a position. This is, you're alienating part of our people. So I'm more of a different generation where I guess you had to be careful about that. But I see some of our players who are just outstanding at it. They feel comfortable in that space. They're natural in that space, and they're unintimidated by it. And so I think sometimes I would tell you that I think people are more comfortable or not in doing that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're lame or weak or I guess open. Well, everybody's open for criticism, but I don't think it's necessarily a shortcoming with them to not say it.
That's a different opinion than I've heard before, and I appreciate it. And people can do things behind closed doors, right? Eileen Hauser, not many people know who she is, and she's done a lot, not only at Nike. Ray Pond did a lot at Nike. Nobody even knows who she is, but the women of the WNBA know who they are. You know, and you could, like you said, be of a different generation and do things behind closed doors and in a different way, just because that's your comfort zone. But you know, to me, it's so frustrating to see those guys. None of them, not one of them. You'd
Yeah.
think that one of those six guys at six, well, however many it is, would be more consistent, because the only people we really see is JJ Redick, Rex Chapman, you know, some of the NBA guys. So anyways, I just like to talk about it because it drives me nuts. It just, and like you said, and Tom Brady's part of a coalition behind closed doors that he supports a
Yeah.
lot of these things, but he doesn't do it publicly. And that's my main issue, is like, publicly, you can do something thoughtfully and educate people and go outside your comfort zone and use your effing white privilege. Because you and I are of an older generation, and you know, I've always had a big mouth, so this isn't hard for me. But for someone, if it's hard, you know, if it's hard for someone, you know, like you or someone else, you know, at what point, like, what would it take for you to say, oh, hell no? Like, I've never spoken out about anything, but there's no way I'm staying silent on this one.
Yeah.
you know, and why does it get to that point kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I totally hear it, and I've given a lot of thought to it, actually, because I know how I am, and I know I don't go on Twitter and make, you know, major statements every day or every week. So but
Like me.
again, I hope, you know, I hope I'm living my life in a way that's representative of what I believe, and that I'm treating people fairly and acting appropriately. But yeah, I think, and I also think another part of that is, and I can't speak for those guys, but I can speak for, you know, other people that I've heard talk about it. And that is, you know, you have to be ready, because whatever position you take, you're going to get lit up. And that doesn't, you know, you also have to be ready to write your statement properly, and I guess, you know, hit the right buttons that people want you to hit, or you end up in a tough spot of criticism as well.
Yeah, you never had anyone do something ridiculous, not like a streaker like we saw the other day, but like no one say anything really racist or ignorant while you're on a broadcast, and you either had to gloss over it, or, you know, act like nobody heard it, or not say anything, or they told you, hey, nothing like that in softball.
No,
Wow,
we
interesting.
really haven't. I've been on a couple where they wanted us to stop talking about something that was happening, but it wasn't inappropriate in that way. It was just,
Gotcha.
hey, let's not talk about, you know, the NCAA ruling here or there,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah, appreciate your sentiments. Candy or popcorn at the movies?
Popcorn.
Do you go to the movies anymore?
I haven't been in a while.
Wait, butter?
I know just
No
how
butter.
it comes, a little bit.
A little
Trying to
salt.
control myself here.
You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's
For those of you
I've got
watching,
the
for those of you
skinny filter
listening, she looks amazing. She's got this beautiful top, and her hair's did, and she's got the flowers behind her. I don't know what's over her right shoulder. It's a
We'll
quote of
see,
some
it's
sort.
something.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yoga or meditation?
Neither.
Neither. Wow. Interesting. You never tried it?
I
Either one?
probably need them, desperately need them both, but
I
yeah,
teach yoga. Just let me know. We can do a different kind of Zoom one
I'm
day.
grossly inflexible.
You don't have to be flexible. That's not what it's about. It's
Is that
about
right?
looking internally.
Okay, but I thought
Yeah,
you had to do some moves.
no. Oh, heck no. You don't have to do moves. It's just about being in your breath and being mindful. That's it.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
might
I know that probably just saying
in my
that's
future.
uncomfortable. My future, I love it. Wait, waffles, pancakes, or French toast?
French toast, if all things are equal.
Wow. You ever had French toast with challah bread?
No.
Yeah, it's a Jewish bread. It's got to be on your bucket list. Uh, so who's your favorite sports team of all time? Any sport?
I'm gonna go with the Raybestos.
Wow. Can you tell people who they are? I'd be quite honest with you. I don't know
So
who
there
they are.
was
They must be a softball team.
Yeah, it was a women's fast pitch team. Women's softball was amateur for so long, but when I was little, that was the pinnacle. So when I was little, there was no Olympics. There was no
Right.
Olympic dream. So the greatest thing that could ever happen to you would be to play for the Raybestos, and all the
Wow.
legends were there. And so I actually got a chance to do that at 27 years old. So it took me a
Wow.
while, but I got there.
Man, that's amazing. I absolutely love that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. I hope I'm here.
Yes, absolutely. But do you have any other things on your bucket list professionally that, or have you just always been of the mindset of you're just going to pay attention, and when those crossroads happen, whatever comes in my path?
Yeah, I'm going to pay attention, and whether I'm in it or out of it, I really love to see women's team sports arrive in the professional space. And you know, again, I would tell you, like, I'm never looking for a handout. I don't ever say that women should have this opportunity because men do. Women should have this opportunity because they're as deserving of it, because they're putting out at least as good of a product in the sports entertainment space as their male counterparts. And men shouldn't have it just because they're men. And I think that is the case a lot of times. So I would like to see, if you can't tell, that would mean a lot to me to see women's team sports arrive and women be able to make a living in the way they should in those areas.
Absolutely. I hope there's a WNFL one day. That would be amazing.
Because you want women to get concussions too. And
That was pretty good. I see why ESPN hired you. What was your best pitch?
a drop ball, by far.
So that's where it looks like it's a fastball and then it just drops off the table right at the end.
Mhm.
How do you hold that?
You can hold it one of two ways.
So
Yeah,
Like
so you
with-
could hold it with the
you
horseshoe.
impressed I got a softball here?
I'm very.
I
wish
had Harvey
had one.
Pennick's book and I have a softball here today.
I have one. Hang on a second. This is a lot easier.
She's going to get it for those of you just listening and not watching.
This is a
Great
lot
chair
easier
too,
than
by
me
the way.
showing you.
Oh, there we go.
So you can let it roll off. the
Supinate
end
or
of your finger.
pronate?
Pronate.
Pronate. Gotcha. Like a screwball.
Yeah, but you come over the top this way.
Oh, right. So facing down,
Yeah.
Right. So the reverse of what you would do with golf. Interesting. Wow.
I've never
Fascinating.
connected it to golf, so
Well, golf, you want to bring your
except for
palm
Harvey
down.
Pennick.
That's right. Except for Harvey Pennick. Do you have a favorite Broadway play that you've been to that you like?
I'm gonna tell you that I really like to play called If Then. And I went to see it by myself. I'm such a Broadway nut that I will go by myself. And it starred Idina Menzel, and that's why I went.
Wow.
But it is a really cool concept about, when you hit paths in your life, if you had gone to school here, who would you have met? Who would you have married? Where would you have been? Or if you went to school here, what happened? So it was really neat in that way. And I saw it again when it came to Nashville. But I still have the soundtrack on my playlist, and I loved it.
As she has the dog over her right shoulder laying down on the dog bed, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. Hi, buddy. We love you. Yeah, we do. Okay, last question. So if you could have 5 people, there it is. If you could have 5 people at your dinner table, past or present, dead or alive, who would be at your dinner table?
It's going to be hard for me to populate, but here's what I thought yesterday. I saw this picture, and I'm not really into this question. People say, well, who would you want to have dinner with? That kind of thing. But yesterday I saw this picture and I said, definitely her. And it was Amelia Earhart.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
I think it was at the airport in Dallas.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm positive that it was. And I thought that. So I'm going to give you her. That's what I got.
Perfect. I love it. Well, anything else? The stage is yours. If you want to shout out anything or anything else we didn't cover that you want to let people know that is important, that you think can help put a better tool in their toolbox and help them be a better version of themselves. It's all yours.
I don't know if I'm going to go that deep, but I will tell you that Athletes Unlimited basketball launches this Thursday.
Right.
And that's 5 weeks of basketball, 30 games, and it's in Dallas. It should be fantastic. Every single one of them is airing in at least a couple places most of the time. We just announced the WNBA League Pass. So 25 of the 30 games are on League Pass. And I do want to say this. I think a lot of times in women's sports, and we experience this constantly in the NPF, we not only experienced adversarial challenges from the outside in being a women's professional sport, but we had adversarial challenges from inside every minute of that league existing. And I think that a lot of times we talk about it and it's the right thing to say and it sounds good to everybody. Let's hold hands, let's support each other. But people aren't really there. When it boils down to it, they're competitive and they want to do something different. And a lot of times women's sports cannibalize each other. And that existed in softball for a long time. It will probably exist again. But when we announced deal with the WNBA League Pass, that they would carry 25 of our games. The social outpouring was overwhelming, and people on their own were saying, so refreshing to see women supporting women truly, and to see the WNBA, what a positive move they're making here to carry another league's games on their platform. We're not competing with the WNBA.
Right.
We're at a completely different time with them. So it makes perfect sense that we would work together. And when you don't have anything, and one group gets something, why would you split the difference and try to, really separate the attention that's happening? So I think, I think that's one of the things that I absolutely love. It's never lost on me with Athletes Unlimited. Women supporting women, our players from the other leagues supporting the players of whatever league's happening in every way. And I think it's super cool, and it's where the world needs to be. And so that may sound a little cheesy to say the reflection, but I will tell you, I honestly think Jonathan Soros was very intentional in the idea and the move, and John Patrickhoff as well. And I think that's what they had in mind. And so it's interesting that those two men are the ones that are showing us all how to play well together in women's sports.
Well, yeah, it's a phenomenal model. And I think it's going to be talked about not only in professional sports and continue to be a model for future professional sports, but in history books, in sports marketing classes. I mean, the ripple effect of this is something that we're just not going to really understand until later, and as we go forward for the next 50 years of Title IX and making sure that we have equitable opportunities for everybody, in particular women. So, man, flowers to you, no pun intended. There are flowers over your right and left shoulder, respectively, and just fascinating conversation. Again, shout out to Scott, Miranda
Yes,
at Athletes
big time.
Unlimited, and Eileen Hauser. She was going to try and make it, but she's busy, obviously.
Launching basketball.
Launching basketball. So, again, Cheri Kempf, Vice President, Executive Producer, Athletes Unlimited. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the experience, and hope I didn't ask too many deep questions, but that's just part of, what I enjoy doing is, getting to some of these issues that you guys support, in particular in Athletes Unlimited. So thank you again, and much love and respect, and have an amazing year 2.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
And
All
much
right.
love and the utmost respect to you.
Thank you. You
All right,
keep
sounds
that
good.
shirt clean and
Oh,
bright.
heck yeah. It's not
Looks
easy with
great
4
on you.
dogs either.
You made me want it. I don't have that one, but I like it.
Yeah, I need a hat too to match. So I asked Eileen, but I might have to go on and just, get one
Eileen
myself.
can get you anything.
Yeah, I know. Well, have an amazing day. What's on tap for the rest of the day? Any big plans? I'm sure you got a
What
million
is? There's a
meetings.
broadcast production call right now that I'm late to.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks. All right,
Bye-bye.
Cheri Kempf, everybody. All right, awesome stuff. Phenomenal conversation. And, we need more people in that space supporting women's youth sports, intercollegiate athletics, and professional sports. And wow, I got to be honest with you, I didn't know the story about League Pass and the WNBA broadcasting those games. I did not see that. I did not come across that, so that's my bad. But that is just beautiful. And talk about the ultimate collaboration. I just hope that the WNBA gets charter flights for the WNBA players for this upcoming year, because anything less is ridiculous. They should not be on any commercial flights ever again. Until next time, thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope we added some value to your life, and there was some inspiration, motivation, and or education today. And until next time, thanks again for joining us, everyone. Much love. Here are today's outtakes, everyone. Enjoy.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. I gotta represent Cheri. Come on now.
Very nice. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I gotta get a hat, but I would have wore the Sparty hat today anyways. In memory of all the people lost over there. So
it's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, it's a lot different than when we were kids, right?
Can't, it's just, it's difficult to even imagine how you go to school and you're not sure if you're gonna be attacked or not.
Yeah, it's weird because I drop my daughter off every day and I sit there half the time for 15 minutes and do work in my car. And I look at that gate and I think to myself, it's not hard. They could walk right through there, even if the custodian came and locked it. So it's like, what do you do?
I
It's
know,
it's nuts.
it really is. It
I
really
mean, the,
is.
the guy at Michigan State walked 5 miles before someone figured out that it was him.
God.
Yeah, crazy. Well, uh, on that note, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I usually do a formal intro, so I appreciate you joining me on this holiday today.
sure.
I didn't think I realized that when I initially set it up, but Scott set it up, so shout outs to Scott.
I
Let's
booked
start-
a whole day of stuff. I booked an all player call. I did all this stuff and I was like,
Oh,
it's President's Day.
nice. I just chatted with Crystal Bradford because she was on the show when we had the Legends of the Ball on with Elizabeth Galloway McQuitter and all of those, amazing board members and, original players from the original
Yeah,
W.
yeah,
And so Crystal joined us because what we were trying to do was sort of bridge the historical gap, which on the women's side, we don't see it the same way that we see it on the men's side. We know the history of the men's game, but we do not know the history of the women's game across the board. And so she came on, because she didn't know those people. She didn't know Elizabeth and, Machine Gun Molly and, a lot of those people that played in the original W, the WBL. So it was cool to have her on. And, she's an incredibly talented person, an amazing woman, lost her sister a couple years ago, suddenly. And so, we've just established a relationship and she's amazing. And she is possibly one of the most underrated players in the WNBA. No bias. I'm a professional basketball skills trainer. I've seen a lot of players over the years. She can flat out ball.
it's funny how that happens sometimes that somebody, I think it's probably, less prevalent than other situations, but it happens in all sports where you're like, that person is really good. You just are not noticing her because of whatever, she's blue collar or she's not flashy or she's not in a flashy spot.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's politics like there is in everything, or, the fact that you played at Central Michigan,
Yeah, there's that.
whatever the case may be. But all right, let me do a formal intro and then
All right.
we'll chop it up and rock and roll. I'm excited. How's the audio sound on your end? It sound okay?
Perfect. Yeah, you sound great.
Well, you're an expert in this area, so if you give me the thumbs up and the okay, then I'm pumped about that.
So you want to know my pet peeve right now is talking of audio. What irritates me, and my full transparency is that my nephew is a play-by-play guy for ESPN, but
Oh boy,
I cannot stand, and this happened on the South Carolina,
Ole Miss.
no, South Carolina, who they play? Who was the big game the other day? Tennessee? South Carolina, I don't know who it was.
May have been Tennessee. Yeah, they play a lot
But-
of big games lately.
Big game, and you can't hear the announcers because they have the crowd so loud. It kills me. Like there's no volume I can turn it up in my living room to hear the announcers clearly. Like,
Yeah, that'll drive you nuts. Either that or listening to Bill Walton.
oh God, I can't take that either. No, I'm with you. That guy.
Oh, shout out to Bill, man. He's reinvented himself, even though he went off the other day on something. Did you hear that? He was literally going in
Doesn't he
on
do that every time?
somebody
Isn't
who
that
he called
his
out
shtick?
that is a shtick, but he was serious about calling someone a troll. I was like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Good old Bill, man. Yeah, Bill went through a lot physically, so I'm glad that he's feeling good and
Yeah.
a lot of homeless stuff here that he really advocates for, and so sidebar, shout out to Bill Walton. Okay, so let's rock and roll.
All right.
Let's do it.
Boy, that was phenomenal. Great job and much love to everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us. Remember, Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying. Stop the Asian hate. Contact your local and state politicians for any inequalities, for any individual or any group that's being marginalized. Also, everyone, we want to raise awareness for those individuals that are currently imprisoned for non-violent offenses, in particular those with long-term sentences that are disproportionate, in particular to those people in the Black and brown community. And I want to send a shout out to 40tons.co. 40 Tons is a socially conscious cannabis brand, and they're a social enterprise using the regulated cannabis industry to fight injustice, in particular for cannabis prisoners. So check them out again at 40, the number 4, the number 0, tons, plural, 40tons.co, because what they're doing in the cannabis space and being a socially conscious company is truly incredible, and they have my full support. And also wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. And now you can call 988. That's it. All you got to do is dial 988 from any phone. And they are available 24/7, 365 days. And if you want to follow me on social media or check out other episodes of this amazing Sports Deli podcast or any of my other podcasts, go to my Linktree at Linktree/Mike Hootner. And if you'd like to support us at the Sports Deli, we'd love to have you either make a one-time donation or feel free to make a donation monthly, either 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. If you have questions about that, send me an email again to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, and I will send you the link on how you can do that. You can also find it at the bottom of every podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Link at the bottom to support the show. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. Make sure that we continue the conversations with regards to 3 strikes and you're out and mandatory minimums, especially people that are in jail for non-violent offenses. So those things need to change. And remember, gents and ladies, please remember to do your monthly self-breast examinations. And remember, guys, this afflicts about 1,500 men annually, with about a third of those resulting in death. So we want to make sure that we do our monthly self-breast examinations, both men and women. And guys, remember to do your self-testicular examinations every month as well. Until next time, remember, it takes a village. I'm Hootie Hoot. This has been a production of Hootie Hoot Productions. Thank you for joining us in the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. Remember, it takes a village. Much love, everybody.